Okay, so this is the skirt, yeah? And remember, as I told you, I was going to do a 1/4 inch seam, tuck it round and sew it all the way round. Well, I've done that, so that's the skirt bit, so I'm going to just put that out of the way for a moment. And then the next thing I said to you is, well, this is the back facing, yeah, which is we're going to use first. And I said to you about overlocking or zigzagging, because look, it's fraying now, little so and so. Anyway, this end of mine as it has got the selvage on, and I'm hoping you can you see this foot? If I put the material underneath, does that make it clearer to you? Can you actually, let me just check on my thing. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Let me just drop it off and show you in more detail. On my machine, this is called an M foot. Yeah? And can you see, that's better on that material. Can you see that it's got, well, it's very oddly shaped. It's got those little bits in it, which kind of loop the edgings a bit. Anyway, this is what I'm going to use instead of an overlocker and instead of zigzag. And it's a an over edge foot. Some of you I know, because I've seen it, because you've shown me, actually have got one on your machine. If not, use a wide foot and use a zigzag stitch. But I'm going to try this. I don't need to do the top, but I'm just and I can't remember the last time I used this, so hold on to your hats, this might not be any good, but I'm going to try it. And I got no idea. Oh, I have now. I need to come out a bit. There we are. Oh, now it's working. I'll take my hand. Oh, that's my foot control again. That's driving me nuts. I haven't made any settings on this stitch. I'm just going with what's pre-programmed for a moment. I'm not going too fast, obviously, because there's quite a few stitches going on at the moment. It's you know, you can't go, well, on an overlocker, I mean, you can go 100 miles an hour if you've got one of those. But I just thought I would try this and see what it looked like, see what sort of edge it gave me, because to be honest with you, I've got so many different gadgets for this machine. I don't think I've used them all yet, ever, and I've had it 5 years. But then you probably feel the same way. I'm just gonna go on and do a few more stitches before I cut that off, because I can always get rid of that end a bit. Oh, right, so of course this white on white, I'm trying to make sure that this is in your eye shot. So that's what it looks like from this side. So it looks like an overlock stitch, and that's what it looks like from the other side. Yeah, so it does look like an overlock stitch. So that's quite nice. So even if you don't have an overlock, I went wrong at the top because I didn't give it the right width, but it doesn't matter. So even if you don't have an overlocker, if you have one of these overlock feet, as I showed you just now, you can get an overlock effect on your machine. Now, if you don't have such a fancy thing, as I said, then just do a simple zigzag. It doesn't need to be too close together. You don't want to do a satin stitch. You want to elongate your zigzag a bit and just zigzag it. The whole point of it is you're just protecting your edges so that they have got some sort of stitch in them, so they're not going to fray. It's just to prevent fraying in the future. As I say, in normal use they won't fray, but should you chuck it in the washing machine, well, you know what cotton's like, it will fray. So this is just to prevent that fraying. You could turn over an edge, but you know, and sew it like a hem, but you know, I try and give you opportunities to do different things and see what the outcome is. So that's that. I'm not going to do this bottom edge because, as we agreed, that's a selvage, and this top edge, as we know, is going to get taken into account in a seam in a minute. Then, as we discussed before, I'm not going to do it on camera, but taking our front facings, we know we don't have to do the top or the long edge, but we do have to do these 4 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to do the same. I'm not going to do it on camera because it takes too much time, but that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I've just done the outside edges on the same way as I showed you, but because I just read on the group Kelly saying, oh, I have trouble with zigzag, so I'm hoping this is in camera shot. This is my ordinary foot, which has got a wide slit in it. This is my ordinary foot, so I'm just going to pop that. Oh, don't know why I did that, but I'm just popping on my ordinary foot now for a moment, and in exactly the same manner, Kelly, I'm just going to go middle. I'm going to go middle so I know where it is, and my settings on this are 3 on the top and 150 on the width. Okay, so I'm going to move it over. I'm not sure where this is going to go, love, so I'm just, because I only want it 1/4 of an inch-ish. So, yeah. Okay. So this is an ordinary zigzag. It could go, I could make it bigger. Oh. No, I don't want to do that. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, probably because my needle's down. Let me take my needle up. That makes it wider. It'll make the stitch longer. So I'm going to make the stitch down to a 2. So my stitch is on 2 now. Put my needle back down. Yeah, see, so now it goes a lot faster. Okay. So that was me, and I just swing it round. But those are only this, you know, don't want to be right. Oh, I'm going to shoot this machine. This is just my machine. There's something wrong with my foot control. Oh, what? Forget it. I'm going to unplug it. Forget it. I'm going to use my hand switch now. Swing it round. 1/4 of an inch in. chewing up the fabric. Oh, see, back it up. This is why I don't use my hand control, because I forget to stop it. Right, swing it round. Swing it. Well, I don't need to anymore, that's it. So I just done that one, Kelly. It started off far too tiny, so I made it wider. I ended up at my width at 3.5 and my stitch length at 2. And it gives you your zigzag, okay? Now the zigzag is not as neat as what I did with the faux overlocker, but at the end of the day, the whole point of it is to stop the outside of the material fraying, which it will do. Okay, now these need to go. I've even done the wrong ones. I didn't need to do that. Oh, I got to go up there. I got to go up there as well. But so, don't worry if you make a mistake. It doesn't. None of it matters. I'll tell you when it's really important that you don't get it wrong. So that's just zigzagging. Doesn't matter if you go off the edge. Doesn't matter. Just remember to turn off the damn thing. So that's that one done. That's that one done. The fact that I overlocked that edge doesn't matter, because it's going to get caught in the seam anyway. Yeah? But it's to stop it fraying. And you can see already bits and bobs are starting to fray before I even got as far as sewing it. So that's why we do that. Okay, Coca-Cola. Now, with our, let's get rid of that. With our 2 pieces, I'm going to put one away because I just want to work on one. Turn it over, or whatever you need to do. So pretty side is facing you. This is the very nice pretty side. Then take your back facing piece. Ooh. You wait and see this. Hang on. So let's just recap. This was what we just, this is our back facing, which we've only got one of, correcto? And I've turned it round my bottom piece. Whoop. So I've only got, so we're pretty side to pretty side, and this has got to fit across the top in the middle. Now you can judge it by eye. You can fold it in half and finger press it so you get a good line like that. Obviously you need to do the same with your piece of material. Or you straight cutting there, Jack. You can put that in half and finger press with your nail on there, so you've got a centre line, and then match them up. Or this will get Margaret now. This was something, I hope you can see it, this was something of my mother's that I pinched. And she used to make loads and loads of clothes, all kinds of things. Evening gowns, you know, full to the floor evening gowns she went on a cruise and all sorts of things. And she could never be bothered to cut round notches on her pattern. So she would use this, which is a notch cutter. And so she would always, and I use it now for handbag making, but she would always put the material in there, press that down, and you see, it's made a notch. And then she would do the same with wherever it, you know, while she had the pattern on the material, while she was cutting it out. and make a notch. You can do it with a pair of scissors, I suppose, but Mum was a great one for making a notch. So then I can just centralise my notches, and you notice that it's well under where you sew. So I know that that is now what should be, actually. Yeah, it is. That is centralised on my pattern. So there we are. But one way or another, whichever method you want to use, I've just shown you that for fun, you need to put your sides together, centralise and pin that together, and then using, at this stage, a 1/4 inch seam, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam down there just to attach it. Then we're going to fold it, so this is that's the pretty side. This, once it's done and folded round, will be on the wrong side of the material, because that's what you're going to see eventually through the V on the neck of the peg bag. Okay, so I'm just going to do 1/4 inch seam right across the top. So this is the correct side, the pretty side of the fabric. I turned it over and ironed it down. And now this is the inside, the wrong side of the fabric. That's the right side of the fabric. And I pressed it, and if you notice, you need to press the extension of it down as well. Otherwise you're going to find that difficult to meet up when we put it all together. So that is now the back facing. So when the front is on, you're just going to see these pegs showing through. So that's all we need to do at the moment with the back piece. Then we come on to the front piece, and I got to really look at this now. Yeah, it doesn't really matter with mine, but I think that this is the front side. Yeah, so with the good side looking at you, we now need to take our inside facings, and again we need to know where halfway is. So you can do it with your thumb. Yeah, cut it with your notch maker. Do whatever you like so that you know where halfway is. And then these pieces, right sides together, are going to get pinned on top of that, exactly as we, as we did with the other, but they're going to get pinned down. They're not sewn together. I'm going to move that other one over in a minute because I just realised what I've done. From your halfway mark, they're going to get pinned in. I need to move this one. I pinned it over too far. Bring it over so they're nearly touching, not quite, but nearly touching. Okay. And pin that on as well. Now what we're going to be doing is sewing from this corner to that corner, and the same the other side, and 1/4 inch away from the edge we're going to be sewing down this side, and 1/4 inch away from the edge we're going to be sewing down that side. When we've got it sewn down, we're going to cut down the middle to about 1/4 inch, well, about 1/2 inch before the bottom. which is going to allow us then to be able to open up and what have you. So at the moment we're just going to sew that edge and the long edge. We're just going to sew the top edge and the long edge with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so now I have sewn across the tops and both sides a 1/4 inch away down to this bit. These bits are not sewn down, pretty sized together. What we need to do now, which you can do with your fabric scissors, I'll just get mine, is we need to cut between the two down to about 1/2 inch before the end. Yeah, you see what I've done now? About 1/2 inch before the end. We can make that longer. Let's see what happens. What I'm also going to do is across my corners, and this is only so that it turns out nicely without intruding on my stitch line, just cut off those corners so that it's easy to turn out. Then we need to turn them out and iron them. So put your finger in, and I will get a tool in a minute to make this much nicer. So we're going to turn that out. Put your finger in, pinch it, turn it out, poke, and I am going to go over it with a turning tool. So then this is the wrong side. So then this is how it's going to look. You need to have a little bit of fiddle with it, and if it's not sitting, and obviously we are going to press all this, and again when we press it we're going to keep that 1/4 inch pressed under as well, right? So when we do press this, yeah, this is the right side, and obviously it's going to get folded back like this. But to start off with, we need to make sure that this will turn nicely, and what we might have to do is a quick snip either side of just the seam allowance. Let's put it back so you can see what I'm doing. I've done the one side. Let's put it back as it was, just so that it will turn nicely and lay flat for you. I've done the one side. From where we ended, turn it round so you can see it. I've done that one side. From where we ended, the other side, just to our stitch line, do a little clip, not cutting your stitches, so that then when you turn it, and obviously it's going to look much nicer once we pressed it. When you have turned it, and we can then press everything under. Looks, you know, it doesn't look right at the moment, but when I pressed it, it will. And then this is the right side, and this is how we're going to bring our, not quite as far as that, but this is then how we will bring our contrast forward. Okay, If this doesn't look very tidy to you, I mean, I haven't pressed it yet or anything, but if this doesn't look tidy to you when we do end up, don't worry about it, because after we put the skirt on, we are going to put the waistband on, and as you see in my example, if you've got anything you're not happy about, I mean, I really haven't pressed it yet, then we could always put a bow there to cover up anything that we don't like. But let me press it first, and then I'll come back to you so you can see what I mean. Okay, so I've sewn this, and this is the back side of it. I pressed it. I'm not too happy actually how that's gone, but where we've pressed it, notice that the 1/4 inch seam extends along the shoulders. Having done it, I pressed the collar over, but I got a problem here. On the one side beautiful, and the other side's not so clever. Okay, doesn't matter. Remember this 2-inch strip we cut, yeah? Because we got to put the skirt down first, but we are going to turn under 1/2 inch on both sides of this with the iron, and that is going to be our waistband, and that will cover up any nasties that we don't like on this corner, on this join here. So don't worry about that for a minute. So the next thing we need to do is to attach the skirt. Now, remember, mine isn't the full 22.5 inches as it should be. Mine ended up, I think, about 21, didn't it? I think so. Now, if I put the two, remembering we've got 3 sides that have been turned under, the bottom and the both long sides, put them together using my thumbnail. I know some people buy tools for this. They buy things that can seam rollers. Yes, well, it's much bigger, but they buy things like this to roll a seam and all that. That costs you lots of money, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, I've only ever used the edge of my thumb, and I can get a crisp middle line using the edge of my thumb. Anyway, so I'm putting my skirt with my centre line down, and obviously we want to fan fold this to fit this top. So I start off, and it is literally by judgment. So I want my first fold to meet on that centre line. That's not enough for me, so I'm coming back. I want it to be wider than that. So I am just doing a fold to that centre line, and that fold I can see through the thickness of the fabric is about 1 inch. And just to help me, I'm going to shove a pin in it, not at the bottom, just at the middle, we know. Then using the other side of the fabric, and again it's a bit by feel and touch, I'm going to bring that again to that middle line. Look at the fold. I thought there was something wrong. Look at the fold underneath. It's not quite as thick as that, so I'm going to take it back, move it back, and make the fold again. Yeah. Now, that comparatively is roughly the same width as this one. So I'm going to put a pin in it. Okay. Now, see, we're still too wide. So now I'm going to move along and I'm going to do a narrow one. I think that's only about, I think that's only about half an inch. Not an inch that we got there, this is only about half an inch. And making sure that your fabric is still running straight, top and bottom, I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm not pinning it to the pink behind, I'm just pinning the pleat I just made. And I'm trying to keep my centre on my centre. And then with this one now, I got to judge it. I only want half, no, that's not enough. Yeah, it's about right. I only want half an inch, but you see how can I tell you? Because I do things by touchy-feely. How can I tell you? Alright, that width and that width is about the same. That pleat and that pleat is about the same. My lines are still straight and I'm still too wide. So now I only want to come in. I know I've got to use half an inch of seam line, so I want to come in a bit. So I'm going to come over. Yeah, if I came over that much, I'm very happy with that. Again, I got around about half an inch pleat in the width of that pleat there, but these pleats are looking more or less the same. So then I could say, well, now I want to do the same with that one and come in. Yeah, that's about right. Come in about there. So now these pleats are looking even to me, and they're looking fairly even. I put it right back up to the, you know, I want it to be just under my collar. And these pleats look even to me. They look even spaced that end. They look fairly even spaced that end. So that's that. And they are more or less, they are going to be slightly longer at the end of the day, because we've got a ½ inch seam on the bottom of that, so it is going to hang over a little bit, right? But you can see what I've just done, and I'm just checking. Yes, you can see what I've just done by hand, by eye and by hand. So now I'm going to take just this skirt over to the iron and iron in, really press and steam these folds in. Okay, so I've just pressed these as best as I can, and this is why I use glass head pins. Because I can press it on glass head pins. If I was pressing it on plastic pins, they would melt the material. So having got all of that centered, and bring it down to the, really right to the top, but to the end of our cut there, I'm going to leave the pins in because I really don't want that to move. And I am going to pin across the top to the pink this time, to the pink, really going to pin it to the pink, so I can put it under the machine and it's not going to move. And I am going to do a what am I going to do? I'm not going to do 1/4 inch. I'm going to do, well, about half, because it's going to get covered by the waistband, so I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch line across here with ordinary stitching, a 1/2 inch line across there that is going to forever hold this skirt to the front of this pinny, to this peg bag. Okay, I took some of the pins out as I went along, but now I can take out the other pins that were in the pleats. So as you can see, if I pull this back, if you can see, that's my 1/2 inch stitch all along there, right underneath the turn of the collar, with another pin there. Now that's been pressed into place. When we finish up doing this, because we're going to have to fold this in a minute, we will repress that, but we've given it a good press, so it should all be, all these well, more or less all these pleats are kind of equal. Yeah, okay, so that's that bit. The next thing we need to do is on our waistband, which is going to go across here now. It's, well, we just make sure it's a little bit bigger than the actual piece you want to sew it to, and we need to turn in a 1/2 inch, that's 1/2 inch on both sides, given that it's 2 inch, they're going to meet in the middle. So you could first off give it a press in half, or give it a finger press in half, so you know where you're meeting. So that goes in, and then when you pressed it, it will give you your inch. That's what we're going to do next. Okay, so we've taken our waistband and we've turned it under 1/2 inch both sides, which should make it roughly about 1 inch, and then we're going to put it at the top of that waistband, and you know, anything that we're not happy about with the neckline or whatever, as long as we know we're covering the top of our, and this is where this notch comes in on the side of the pattern that I gave you, it should touch the top of that notch both sides. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit curved, it's a dress. So then what we need to do is to pop, oh, there's a bent pin in there, pop a few pins in so it doesn't move between here and the sewing machine. I think you only want 3, yeah. Pop a few pins in so that you know you've got everything covered. Yeah. Then I'm going to change my upper thread to this lovely baby pink, and I'm going to elongate my stitch to 3 lengths, because it's a top stitch, and I am going to be about 1/8 of an inch down this end and 1/8 inch up here, about 1/8, so 1/2 quarter, so very close to the edge. I'm going to do a 3 length stitch all along the top and all along the bottom to put that down. So it you know, I'll come back to you and show you. Okay, so it's back under my needle, and I've changed my needle to be in normal normal foot again. Yeah, this is just my normal foot, and I'm gonna make sure my stitch, normal utility stitch at 240, yeah, and plop me doodad down. Now this top stitch, I'm going to make sure it's It's on 3, so it's a nice long stitch. Move my pins down as I do because I really don't want to catch my pin. And about 1/8 of an inch from the top line, I'll just sew. I don't push, I don't pull, I just let things be as they are. Ooh, pin coming up, move it out. Like I say, I'm not pushing or pulling. Pin coming up, move it out. And I'll go right to the edge on that and say, well, that's enough. And then, now that is stitched down, so I can take these pins out now because it's not going to move anymore. Okay, and then I can fiddle it through the other way. Again, I'm starting right at the edge. Is that where I want it? Yes, it is. Starting right at the edge. And I'm doing my... See? Don't, never fight your machine. If you're fighting machine... Ooh, it didn't go so well there. Don't fight your machine, because if you're fighting with your machine, then you ain't got it right. And that's right off the edge now, so I can cut that. So now, I don't know whether you can see it on the camera, where you are on the camera, but I've just top stitched top and bottom for that. Yeah? So that's the waistband on. Now that's covered up any nasties that we may have had on that V there. It's covered it up. But we can still, I'm still going to put a bow on there. I'm still going to put a bow on there. So the next thing I need to do when I get back to my, over on the other table, is I am now going to cut the waistband to fit the contours of my space. We need to, I know we just ironed all this and it's gorgeous, but we're going to have to pin this up out of the way like this, because the next thing is to join the back to the front and we're done. Oh yeah. Right, let's go back to the table. So as I said to you over there, what we need to do next is just, well, just follow the contours of the pattern and cut off the waistline. So now that's great. The next thing we need to do is we're now going to put it together. So we do not want in any way, shape or form this skirt, which we've ironed beautifully, but I'm sorry, we're going to have to mess it up now, because we're going to have to pin it, fold it and pop a pin in to make sure that it's nowhere near our edges that we need to sit together. Then still keep that pinned up out of the way, but this this is the wrong side. I know it, I got confused, so sorry. That corner's fine. Let's do it all again. That corner's fine. Keep those pieces together. Oh, that corner's fine. Bits on the side. Bits on the side. Yep. That's fine. Bits on this side. Yep. That's fine. The last thing I want to pin is that sleeve. Oh, and and I want to keep that, right? Right. So sorry, my bad. because when we turn it inside out, that facing's got to be on the inside. So, and this is the outside, and that is the outside, because that needs to be on the inside when we turn it. So I may have set you wrong there, but please bear with me, I've got it right now. So now we're ready to sew. But you can get long pins for this. Oh, I've got just the thing. I bought these the other day because I wanted them for something else. I'm not using them yet, but this is just the thing for this. Flower head pins. Of course, you can't iron with them, mind, so don't go mad. But where the top of the shoulders meet, and you know you've got your fold line, mark it, because that's where you're going to start. Alright, put a long pin in there, go another long pin, oh I've got a pink one now, go over this side, and again, I hope you can see this on film, where your corner turns over, pin it, pin it, pin it, pin it. That's where you're going to finish. If you start over there, which I suggest you do, or you have to do if you want to stay down the right hand side, that's where you're going to finish. Put something in, or mark it with a pen or something to know where you're starting and finishing. And obviously we need to do a couple of stitches, cut the stitches back, and then go on. Yeah, 1/2 inch seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, and that's what we're going to do. And we're literally, because we know we got in here the skirt all folded up out of the way, so we are going to be doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance absolutely around absolutely everything back to there, and it's done. So I've just been all round with my 1/2 inch everywhere, and now I did catch, not that side, but I did catch it this side. I don't know why, but it doesn't matter. Now I can cut off a couple of points. Don't cut into your stitching, whatever you do, but you can cut off a couple of corners. If you wanted it professional standard, you could overlock or zigzag all around these inside seams. But what I would say to you is that considering we've given them 1/2 inch, not 1/4 inch, if it unravels a bit, it's not going to come in 1/2 inch. So it's up to you. But obviously, yeah, if I was making a I've lost, where's my point turner gone? I've lost my point turner. Come on, guys. Oh, here he is. If I was making this to sell, or you know, giving it something special, I would do it. But I'm not. I'm doing this for video purposes. Yeah, so as usual, I take my point with my finger and bring it through. Then I go down and I find the next corner, bring it through. Again with this corner I find my finger, bring it through, and then I'll go down to the other corner, bring it through. Having got it through, I can then just shaky bakey, tuck that in, unpin our skirt that we pinned up. It's a little bit creased now, but now we've done that, don't worry about this curve on the top, that's good for the hanger. We can go then to our corners using our nice little tool, and not too hard, mind, you won't break the stitch in. Go and point out your corners so that things look nice and neat. Right. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, everything's looking good. Everything is looking good. Okay. As I said, if you still got a problem here, well, I'm going to put a bow on it anyway. But I am just going to insert, this is a normal size beach hanger. I'm just going to get him in and bring him up. Look at that. Just, oh, look at that. Obviously I'm going to press that again because that's now, I'm not going to go pink. Oh, there he is. Look at that. Red. Yeah? And all I'm going to do, I don't do anything by hand. So all I'm going to do with that, let me take my thing out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on there, put red cotton in my machine, put it like that under my needle, and do a button stitch, a button stitch on there to hold it. That's what I'll do it now. As you can see by this photograph I put up, that this is one that I had made previously in a much darker colour, and I have used buttons to sew down the flaps of the collar so that they don't, curl up or anything in use. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and you would like and subscribe to see further projects.